All right, hey guys, welcome to Traditional Bow Hunting Wilderness Podcast. This is Jason Samkovic. Today, we're going to take a minute, we're going to talk about what I do and don't like in broadheads, okay, what matter to me. And we have a variety of them set up here. Some are glue-on, some are screw-in, but we have them set basically based on the width, narrowest to widest. Now, every one of these heads on this table are phenomenal. They're absolutely incredible heads. Cannot say one bad thing about any of them. They're all incredible. And they all serve a different purpose and they're after a different thing. So that's what we want to talk about today. And so it kind of helps you figure out what you're looking for and what you want out of your broadhead. You might hear a little rain in the background. It's actually raining out. We're out here in my garage. So here we got a meathead by Toughhead, the original one. This is what the company was basically built on when Toughhead was, when a lot of the Toughhead stuff was traditional things. They still make these. I believe they do anyway. I haven't looked in a while. But that's, one of the original 3-to-1 type heads, very similar to like the Grizzly heads are, things of that nature. They're phenomenal. And they're designed real long and designed for penetration factor. Narrow, long, 3-to-1 ratio. Okay, so it's a fantastic head. Here's a Toughhead 300 grain prototype one, or one of their very few that he made that way. And this one's getting I think this goes from 1 1/16 to 1 1/8 or something like that. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember the weights. I know this is a 300 grain Toughhead, but when you look at the thickness difference, going from a 190 to a 300, okay, look at that. Come on, you should be set up to focus on there. There you go. You can see that thickness difference in the blades and in the overall structure of that going from a 190 to a 300, basically in an almost identical head. So that's a big factor there, something to think about. I tried to line these all up by where the ferrule will mount on your arrow. So it puts it into perspective. This one here, this is a very expensive, this is the toughest broadhead in the world, hands down. Nobody can make anything stronger or better or does that I'm aware of. This is made by Bishop. This is a 600 grain, 1 1/4 wide. Look at the thickness of steel on that thing. This is an absolute beast. I mean, this is a beast of a broadhead. And I showed this in the world's strongest arrow video. Like I said, not cheap, but it is by far the strongest, meanest broadhead ever made, in my opinion. This thing's just incredible. But that's that Bishop broadhead. Now we're going to take that one out because, like I said, this this broadhead alone is hundreds of dollars for just a head. So we're going to kind of pull this out of the equation and get to the normal stuff. But that thing is just so impressive. Look at that thing. It's just insane, impressive. That thing is just so cool. Very proud to own that. But so we go over here like this. We're looking at these. So we're going narrower size, but notice that 3-to-1 ratio, how long this is, all right? So you're giving up the width to gain the length. And you don't have a choice. If you want to be long, and if you want to have a 3-to-1 ratio, you need to be narrow. Otherwise, you can't. Give you an example. Here is a 1.5 inch. This is made by A. Boyer, but this is a 1.5 inch wide 3-to-1, almost, not even a full 3-to-1, but look at the size of that head. Okay, that's insane. I mean, that thing is just absolutely crazy big broadhead. It's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome, but it's very, very big when you consider that these two are the same width head. And you can see there. So, I mean, there's a huge factor that comes into play with that stuff. So, a 3-to-1 ratio head or something similar to it, this is going to give you very good penetration. There's no doubt about it, but you're going to have smaller holes. Everything is a trade-off, okay? You can't have one something without giving up the other something. So, a 3-to-1 head is going to give you that kind of a longer, narrower, real deep penetrating ratio. They are in a single bevel format here. This one's single bevel too. We just never finished the edges on it because it was coated, okay, but that is also single bevel. So you have those, and then here we have A. Boyer's. I don't remember the name of this one. This is an actual all one-piece screw-in model, and this is that's actually welded in, that insert's welded in, or it's one piece, I'm not sure. It looks one piece to me, but this is a it's like just under 1 1/8, or I mean under 1 1/4 wide. Here's an A. Boyer 1¼ wide right here, which I love this. A Boyer glue-on a 100 grain adapter for a glue-on. This is one of the old Magnus classics in a 125 grain, and it's a 1¼ inch wide. Now, notice this. See how this angle is cut out of there? I did not bring the other one out. I did not bring a 1½ inch wide Magnus. I should have. But really, this head is no different than see, like you look at this. It is no different than this one, because this is built on the exact same size as a standard Magnus. Do I have one in here? Hang on, I might have one in this arrow. Let me see if I got one in here. I do. We got to be careful with this one, though, because this one is sharp. So we're going to be careful with this particular head here. Hang on. We got to wiggle this one in here to show it for reference in here too somewhere. So we're going to set that there. Can you see that? Yes. So for this one, it is actually the same exact size as this head is when you line the ferrules up. All they did is, instead of leaving this extra tail, they cut it off. So when I set this on here, you can see that that head is the same size. All they did was cut off the back notches. I'll pick it up and show you. We'll wiggle that shaft out of there. So they are the same size head. All they did was cut the back ears off. Let me hold it by the tip. See what I'm saying? They just cut those back ears to make it from 1½ to 1¼ It's the only thing they did different on that head. Otherwise, it's the same exact head. Okay, this being my tried and true loved 1½ inch wide Magnus. Here is the A Boyer single bevel version of that same head. And as you see here, they are identical. Okay. They are identical in shape, size, everything about them. It's the exact same head, basically. Just here came in a single version, or a single bevel version. All right, I'm going to put this one back. So like I said, this one's razor sharp, and I don't want to deal with a bunch of razor sharp broadheads up here right now on arrow shafts. So we put that one away. But, so you can see some of the different approaches. Here's the razor, 250 grain, just under 1½. You can see it's barely just under that 1½, just a smidge narrower than what that is. But we also are going a little bit shorter. There's pros and cons to all of that, but you can see just a smidge, okay, just a little smidge narrower, like a 1/16 of an inch maybe, less cutting diameter, and just a little bit shorter, but the same similar approach, very similar, almost identical kind of attack angle, just a little bit shorter. So you can see that there's all these variations, and then like I said, this head and this head are basically identical. Same 1½ inch wide, but look at, because of that attack angle, how you end up being so much super long. And it brings us to some examples in here. Now this one here is the Ace, Super Ace, Ace Super, whatever they call it, but it's a fantastic head as well too. This one is actually a little wider even, just a smidge wider of a blade. As you can see, about a 1/16 inch wider than what the 1½ inch wide is. And then here's that A Boyer whitetail head, which is just massive and awesome, and it's a little bigger than even that. It says it's 1½, but it's actually it does come in a little bigger than 1½, even bigger than that. Here's, like I said, true 1½, and it is a little bit wider, even though it calls it a 1½. You can see by the size of that there's some difference in there. It's a little bigger, but awesome heads. All these are absolutely fantastic heads. Now, what is it you're looking for out of your heads is the key question. Do you want something long and narrow that's going to penetrate through shoulders and things like that really well, but going to possibly leave much poorer blood trails? Do you want something massive in size that is going to give you tremendous blood trails, but going to be a lot harder to push through bone, a lot harder to even push through meat? I mean, there's a lot more drag in a broadhead this size than there is in a broadhead this size. Okay, these are the things that you need to figure out. Do you want it to be single bevel, or do you want it to be old school double bevel? Double bevels were great, and you can make a double bevel head out of very thin steel, which means much less drag, much less cutting resistance. You can get this thing wicked sharp, and because it is so paper thin comparatively, you can drag that thing, or that thing will go through just about anything. But you can see by the thickness of the back of the blades. Where's a good example of a flat back? I don't have one, but these are about the same. But look at the thickness of the blade difference here, okay, versus how thin versus how thick. Okay, so there's a tremendous advantage to that thinner blade on there too for cutting resistance in there if it's not a single bevel. And cost of these are tremendously lower. So there's a lot of things that you got to take into consideration and think about with your heads. Do they want to be screw-on? Do they want to be glue-on? The advantage to a screw-on is like these two right here. Okay, they're one-piece set. You don't have to tune nothing. You don't have to, as far as like trying to tune the adapter to the head, make you spin testing them to make sure they're right. All that stuff is done for you. It's one less glue piece to come apart. Some people think they're stronger this way because they are one-piece setup, so there's a lot of advantages to those. There's a lot of advantages to a glue-on because you can change out your adapters and use multiple heads with different weights. I can run this one and set that up as a 400 grain head, or I can run this one and set it up as a 340 grain head. Okay, so I have that option. I can make this from a 125 grain to a basically 170 grain, or I can make it a 125 and 100, so I can make it a 225 just by gluing those in. So there's a lot of pros and cons to each style of head, whatever it is that you want to do with it and whatever your plan is. You have to make that decision. Again, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want to have your cake and eat it too, you end up with something like this. Okay, that's too big of a head that I don't want to shoot. That thing is massive. That will not even fit in my quiver. Okay, look at the length of that if I put that in my quiver. I have to go to a bigger quiver, and I could, but that's just massive in size. And that's also a concern with these ones too that we need to take into consideration. When you get into some of these longer heads, some of these will not even fit fully into your standard hood quiver. See that? Look at them popping out of the bottom here. Okay, so they're not going to fit in there. You have to leave it out halfway like that, which is dangerous. So you got to take that kind of stuff into consideration. Some of these bigger ones, these longer ones, may not even fit in your quiver correctly. Now, Great Northern does make a long hood model, which I have, which is awesome too. But things to consider on there, things to think about. So you have to find that perfect mix in what works for you. Me personally, I like the single bevel style heads better than the double bevel. So for me, double bevel is out. Not a fan of them, okay? I do not like skinny heads, okay? So these are out completely. This one here is just massively too big and doesn't work for me, and I wouldn't shoot it. It's probably a great head, but that's so much surface area of cutting resistance-wise and the size and the shape that it's going to limit penetration even more than I think it's going to gain. I think it's cool, but I don't think I would ever use that one. So that brings us down to these ones right here. I do not like vented heads. I'm not a fan of them. They whistle. They can make noise in weird wind conditions for me and my helical fletching. As you see on these feathers, I shoot a tremendously big helical, okay, and a big feather. So me personally, I am not a fan of vented heads under any circumstances. Again, myself, I like these. They're nice, and I'd use them for certain things, but I'm just not personally a fan. So that narrows us down to these right here. So what do we have here? We have 4 heads that I think are absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. We have the A-Boyer, the big bone head, 200 grain. Now, because of the fact that it's 200 grains and I'm looking for a 250 grain head is what I want, I have to put it on a 42 grain insert. If I put it on this one, it becomes too heavy. But then I'm also, I shot a lot of animals with these and I love them, but it does kind of bum me out to have that weak aluminum adapter in there. Not a huge deal, it works, and I'm not complaining, and like I said, I still use these a lot, but it's not my ideal head because of that, the fact that, you know, everything about it's perfect, and if I ever go to shooting 300 grain heads, like I said, that would be right up my alley. Okay, here we have a, we got a 200 and something, basically we got a 250 grain here. This is coming in exactly 250 broadhead here, and this is an A-Boyer 1 1/4 wide wapiti. It's 175 grains on a 75 grain insert. Here's a stainless steel version of very similar, so a little narrower. I think they call it the brown bear. A little narrower, but I like the design, I like the shape, I like the weight, I like the single bevel, I like the strength, I like everything about it. And A-Boyer, though, now they're under new business ownership now, and I'm hearing very good things about them. Hearing really good things about them, and that they keep a lot more stock in. Back when I was shooting these, they were out of stock for well over a year. I couldn't even get them. That was kind of annoying. Now I hear they're doing much better and they're fantastic. But those are two great options. However, I want a little bit wider than 1 1/4 if I can. These were phenomenal. I'm nitpicking here, but I wanted a little bit wider, and kind of leads us to for me, that razor. This razor is also stainless steel, a complete stainless steel ferrule. It's double screwed in. The strength is here. We got .062, and this is A7 tool steel, which is just or A2, I'm sorry, A2 tool steel, but absolutely incredible head. And I've killed a lot of animals with it so far, and I've been very, very happy. I've killed, most animals I've killed in my life have been with this head right here, by far. I mean, well over 100 animals I've shot with this head. This one is so similar, giving me the width and everything. Now when I take mine, I round these heads off a little bit here. You know, I get rid of that needle point, kind of like they did here. So you're talking about almost an identical shape head, yet I get the advantage of single bevel. I get the solid stainless steel ferrule on there for super strength and rigidity. I don't have to mess with glue-in inserts or another place where there's a weakness point. Not that that's a bad thing. Like I said, those are strong. But everything about this particular head answers my personal bills. So does this one. So does this one. Well, and again, because you know, I've just had such proof with this one. We're gonna put him away though, because like I said, that's a sharp one here on the table. And so is this one. So for me, these are my 3 favorite heads made in the world today, right here. These 3 combinations. And I honestly think this one out-penetrates from what I'm seeing here by having a little less cutting surface. It's more through quicker, in my opinion. Now that may not have any scientific value to it, but I'm really noticing that the pass-throughs are much faster, much quicker with this head than they are when I was shooting these, and I've only killed probably 5 animals with these, but I've killed a dozen with these and about a dozen with these now, or 9 or 10 with that. And I'm noticing a little quicker, and I think it might have to do with that. Just they nailed the perfect combination of angle of attack, length of blade, width of blade. I'm real happy with it, so that's a real good combination. Now, another thing, me personally, that I will not buy a head ever again that doesn't have this, because they have it, both companies. I am assuming that A. Boyer still does this, as they did here, but as we take out one of these A. Boyers here, this is one of those. This head here is one of these, okay? There's one of those. But what I like is this wrap, this dip, okay? You can see that Razor does it on all of theirs too. They actually learned this, Razor learned this from Larry over at A. Boyer Heads when Larry owned it. This is a game changer for me. The fact that I can take these heads, and let's take one that's a little cleaner here. They all work the same, but let's, for purposes here. But what's nice is I can take these, with these on here, they're shipped protected, so your edge is protected, because these are all shipped hunt ready sharp. They're already deadly ready and sharp and hunt ready. But I can put these on my arrows, stick this on my shaft, and I can put them in my arrow case like this, and they will not cut feathers off my other arrows if they shift around in there. Or if I throw bowstrings or any other things in there, there's nothing that's going to get cut or damaged by these. And if I got a dozen or 2 dozen arrows in my arrow case, they are not my quiver, my actual arrow case, as you see in other videos, these heads are protected, and this is actually replaceable, okay? So you can pop it, wiggle it off of here, like this, and there's a razor sharp, oiled, perfectly flawless broadhead. Razor is identical; they do the same thing. But when so I can take this, if I need to, which, like I said, they come wicked sharp. Okay, all these do. And but if I wanted to touch them up or sharpen them or strop them, I can then put this back on. Okay, it's a little tricky, but it's doable, and for me it's worth the time to kind of just find that line. There it is right there. Push it back in, set that on there, bring that around, kind of give it a little push, and feed it on. But what that's doing for me is that it's giving me that re-protected surface. So now I can put that back in my arrow case and it's 100% protected. It's like win-win all the way around. So I will never buy heads again from a company that does not do that. And actually, as crazy as it sounds, every time I take one of these off a head, I have a drawer full of them when I'm taking them off my razors. I save every one of these in case I need to use one on a different head. Like say, this head I already broke or lost the original one that was on there. I can take one of my spares and feed it on there and keep my head completely protected when it's in my arrow case. So for me, this dip they do, game changer. Absolutely awesome. So, but you have to pick and choose what's going to work best for you. I promise you this, as I've just got done saying, where did I put my, where did I put the other one? Is it here? Somewhere in here I put one of these that was with an insert. Anyway, but the takeaway here is that every single head on here that you can see, well, like I said, he's the expensive one in the room, but all of these heads are straight up awesome. You cannot go wrong. This one, like I said, will kill animals like crazy. Every single one of these. But narrowing it down for me personally, this right here becomes my whole world of what matters most to me. And it is all based on the fact that I've killed hundreds of animals, close to 200 animals, with a head like this. What do we have here? We have these heads all that mimic exactly this, but they give us the single bevel. They give us, this one gives us A2 steel. These are high carbon. High carbon's great. As you can see, they do rust and corrode a little bit more, but they're incredible. But you get all the benefits of this in a single bevel head with these combinations. So for me, this is my whole world right here as far as broadheads go. All these other ones are cool and they're great, but they're not for me. That's what I'm after. This video hopefully helps you figure out what combination. Maybe this is the one that you want more than anything, and there is nothing wrong with that. John has probably killed, I don't know, maybe 13 animals with one of these things. He loves this head. It's an incredible head. Okay, these meatheads, these have been killed. So many animals are killed by these, and single bevels work incredible. Or I mean, these 3-to-1 ratio heads do work incredible. You're obviously going to get a much smaller blood trail out of this than you are out of this, or out of any one of these, and that's understandable, but you know, you're gaining that that penetration factor. You have to find your best of everything you want, because you can't have it all. If you try to combine this with this, you end up with this right here, and that's a whole lot of broadhead that I don't want to mess with. I don't want to shoot something that big. That's just, you know, like I said, I think the variables of that, I would lose penetration, I would not get through bone, I would get a big blood trail if I actually do, but I'm going to get less pass-throughs because the arrow's going to be, it's got to fight that whole length of blade, where this one would just right through like nothing. So for me personally, you can't have everything that you want between this and this. There isn't, you know, you put them together, you end up with this thing here, which is just kind of too much. So you got to find out what you're looking for. For me, this wins all day long, this wins all day long, this wins all day long. These just don't cut it for me personally, just my personal preference. These, because of the fact that they emulate and relate to that right there. So hopefully this video gives you a little bit of help, and a little bit of stuff to think about as this season goes on. I will have links to these broadheads down below for you so you can make some decisions. And as always, thanks for watching.